All right, today we are tackling a topic that, thanks to adult media, is surrounded by a ton of curiosity and, frankly, a lot of misinformation. We're talking about female ejaculation. We're going to cut right through all the myths and get straight to the science. Let's dive in.
So what even is it? I mean, really, you've definitely heard the term, but from a biological standpoint, what is actually going on? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out together.
Here's our game plan. We're going to start with the image we all know from adult films. Then we'll pivot to the scientific reality. We're going to break down two very different things that often get confused, look at what the fluid actually is, and then wrap it all up with a final clear takeaway.
Okay, let's be real. For a lot of people, the only frame of reference for this topic comes from pornography. And, that has created a very specific and often pretty misleading idea of what this is.
Dr. Sandrine Talla, who's a specialist in sexual medicine, just says it so perfectly. That super dramatic, high-volume image, you know the one that looks like a hose, she says it's simply, quote, unrealistic. And that right there is the first big step, separating the fantasy from the reality.
So if that whole hose thing is a myth, then what's really happening? This is where we shift gears, away from the media and into the medicine, to look at the real biological process. And honestly, the reality is way more nuanced and I think way more interesting.
First things first, let's get one thing crystal clear. We are not talking about normal lubrication that happens during arousal. That is a totally different process. What we're focusing on are these specific events that can happen right at the peak of excitement.
And this brings us to what might be the most crucial point of this whole explainer. It turns out we're not just talking about one thing. We're actually talking about two very different phenomena that get lumped together all the time. So let's break them apart.
The first phenomenon, the one scientists would properly call female ejaculation, is actually pretty rare. Studies show that only about 5 to 10% of women experience it. That's a huge difference from what you might think based on media, right?
So true female ejaculation is this small amount of a thick kind of whitish fluid. It actually comes from the Skene's glands, which are right around the urethra. And get this, biochemically, it's surprisingly similar to some of the stuff found in male prostatic fluid.
Okay, so let's put them side by side. On one hand, you have that rare small volume ejaculation we just talked about. But on the other hand, you have what's called squirting, or flow, which is a much larger amount of a clear fluid. This is a completely different event, and here's the kicker. It's something that most women can potentially achieve.
All right, so let's zero in on that second one, the squirting. If that large flow of fluid isn't the rare ejaculation, then what in the world is it? Well, science actually gives us a really clear answer.
It turns out the fluid is basically a cocktail. It's a combination of a few things. Some secretions from those Skene's glands we mentioned, some fluids from the vaginal wall, and this is the key part, diluted urine from the bladder. So no, it's not purely urine. It's a totally natural mix of bodily fluids that gets released during orgasm. And just knowing that can clear up so much anxiety and misinformation.
Okay, phew. We've gone all the way from media myths to scientific facts. Let's just pull it all together one last time and really lock in the key things to remember. So here's your cheat sheet. Number 1, media portrayals are usually fantasy, not reality. Don't sweat it. Number 2, remember, there are two totally different things happening, the rare small ejaculation and the more common larger flow. And finally, number 3, that larger flow is a completely normal, natural process involving a mix of fluids.
And we'll leave you with one final thought from Dr. Attala that I think completely reframes this whole conversation. She says that far from being some rare or weird thing, this larger flow is a normal part of sexual response that most women can experience. So the big takeaway here? Understanding the science doesn't just demystify the topic, it normalizes it. And hopefully it turns any confusion you had into curiosity.